Good morning, Mashi.
Good evening, Dennis. How you doing, baby?
Coffee arrived today this time. It's all okay, all in
It
order.
did. I also refer to you as baby, and that's because I'm in my streaming studio. So I'm going to refer to our audience as chat and just say baby a lot.
Is that the baby zone? Is that what we want to call it?
You know what I've realized in our world of pronouns and gender usage?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone can be baby, Dennis. And in fact, everybody is baby. I mean, I think it's actually probably a little bit more awkward for male viewers. I'm like, all right, baby, let's do it. But I don't think so. I think baby is a. I mean, am I wrong about this? Baby is a non-gendered.
I think it is a non-gendered term. There's definitely some male towards female old school connotations, but I don't know. I think it's fine. I think you're well and clear.
Fully 95% of my audience, and I think I'm undershooting it, is male.
I think you're undershooting it as well in your live stream where you open packs of currently mostly wrestling cards.
Okay, look, there's a few that I believe are female. There's Luke's mom, me, Kathy, Lynn, Tubby, Julie, Callie, girl. I believe that all those regulars are in fact female, but I still call them baby because I don't want to make it awkward. And also, who knows?
No, I appreciate that. All right, it's your day today,
Dennis. I want to bring a quote. It was weird. It just popped into my head last night. And this is a quote that I heard for the first time when I was 16 years old. And of course the full quote didn't pop into my head, but I remember actually the meat of it, which is the second line, I guess, did a third line. And it's a quote I've actually applied in my life. This is a pearl of wisdom that I've literally turned to very recently and has been profoundly effective.
This is actionable advice you're dropping here.
I think so. It's hard to engage with it. Because I've done it, and it's massively uncomfortable. I've done it, but I want to appeal to maybe those who have had a similar mindset to myself, which I think is, if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably been in that bucket. It's a quote from John Justice Wheeler, who no one will know, not really, unless they're a true Twin Peaker. That was the character Billy Zane played on Twin Peaks, which is my favorite American TV show of all time. I say American because you know my favorite TV show of all time is.
Do I?
I mean, it's pretty goddamn obvious, Dennis.
I don't know. It could be anything. Could be any iteration of Doctor Who.
Could be a yacht. In this particular story arc, one of the villains, Twin Peaks is a soap opera. One of the historical villains has turned over a new leaf and has had a near-death experience, or has lost everything, and now is a good guy, whatever. And he has his friend, John Justice Wheeler, who he's turning to for advice. He's like, what do I do? How do I be a good person? And the reply is, just keep an eye on your heart and always tell the truth. Tell the hardest truth first, though. And it's that last line, tell the hardest truth first, that has always sat with me in the back of my brain. And I never did this. I never, ever, ever did this. I historically have been the king of the white lie.
My gut reaction is to disagree with this. So maybe we're on the same path and I'm just behind you, but maybe I'm Mashi 15 years ago, but I don't like the sound of that at all.
Tell the hardest truth first, Dennis. Just try it.
I think a lot of people use speaking truth and speaking their truth and being real as license to be an asshole, to be honest.
Of course. Yes.
And there are I guess there's a difference between lie and lie of omission, right? Like, you don't need to be up, but if you take that quote to its logical extreme, you're going to be upfront with everybody immediately with the things you like about them the least.
No, because I don't think he's not saying be unkind. He's not saying don't be nice. This is really addressing those. We are a landmine of secrets until we open up. We really are. And I don't suggest, I'm not saying you go down to the, Costa or Starbucks or whatever the iteration is locally for you, and start talking to the barista and tell them the hardest truth first. I'm talking about talking to your wife, talking to your parents, talking to those that are close within your orbit. That is in your orbit.
I think that's easy, or not easy, but understandable. Okay, maybe I'm overshooting there. Maybe I'm a more emotionally available person than I expect others to be.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, you mentioned it's not about being unkind. I think being kind involves, I don't want to say lying, but it does not involve telling the truth all the time, especially not the hardest truth right up front. I don't think I agree with that at all.
You have to tell, to the people that are close to you, you must. To the people that are close to you, you must. I don't think this is like a good idea for someone you are in a close, committed relationship with.
I agree with that. I agree with you. I agree with
this is a moral imperative. And again, I'm not saying you do this with your buddies on game night. although I think it wouldn't be a bad thing. There's another quote, which I will probably do a whole thing on. I don't think maybe we've already done it. It's getting to the point. That's why I can't remember what quotes I've used. The doctor does have a quote where he says, always try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. And I think that this is true. You can be kind, but not nice. And I think you're confusing being nice with being kind.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm being short-sighted about it.
But I think
I agree with you. I think for people like in my situation, for example, with my wife and my family, I think I agree with you 100%. Right. And Nikki and I, for example, have incredibly open, honest, open communicative conversations about very difficult things all the time. And it's actually a point of pride. I think it's something we really excel at as a couple.
That's the best.
But that list falls off fast after that. I think for me,
I'm for sure. But the hardest truth in a continuum. No. I mean, I don't know how
it's
you
relative. You mean, right?
Well, I just don't think like talking to the barista about how you hate the way they greet you every time you walk into the coffee place is the
barista is a bad example, though. That's too far. Pull close, like a close friend of yours that you see at least once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think that's the hardest truth in your life. Is that true? When you get down to it, is that the hardest? And if it is, kudos to you. God, you're doing a great job being an open book. But if the hardest truth in your life is, hey, Dennis, we have game night at my place every 2 weeks. We shop at the same grocery store. You always buy the triple discount about to expire crisps. And I hate it. Please stop doing that. Everybody else brings a nice bottle of wine, a little crudité. We rotate who's buying dinner. Every time, we go to a nice takeout, we bring something in. And then every time it's yours, it's like, well, here's Domino's and I have a triple coupon. Can we order it 3 separate times so I can use the coupon for each individual order rather than all at once? I hate it. Okay, is that your hardest truth? Is that really it, Dennis? Is that the level you're at?
It depends on what you mean by hardest truth. So I think there is a Denis Mashi truth. Look, we have a relationship, and there are elements within it, and then there's a Nikki Dennis truth, and there's a Dennis Jeff truth, and there's a Mashi Ryan truth, and things like that, right?
Sure.
Do you think there's an imperative to elevate your relationship with everybody to the maximum level? Because that's kind of what I think this quote's telling you to do.
I think here's my experience. Okay. And to be honest with you, I have been a very hidden person. I'm a very open person, I'm a very social person. I'm one of those people.
That's a recent, the openness is a relatively recent development.
And you've experienced this too.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah. I'm one of those people who, most people you get about 3 inches deep and you're like, now I'm releasing under the surface. You'll get 3 feet deep and you still haven't, because I have 3 feet of bullshit armor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you think I'm being open, you think I'm being friendly, you think you're seeing so much about me, and you're not seeing the core. And recently I've opened that up. And what I think, that's a Pandora's box. That's the whole thing here, is when you tell the hardest truth first and keep an eye on your heart. Please don't forget that part of it, right? Keeping an eye on your heart is very important, right? This is not about like eviscerating everybody and having a cold heart, or exposing yourself to the point where you're massively vulnerable with those you can't trust with your vulnerability, because this ultimately does come down to vulnerability. Honesty is vulnerability. Once you start opening up, it's a Pandora's box. You are open, and you will become open in ways you never thought. You'll become transparent in ways you never thought, because you've relinquished so much of the guarding. And the staple guard around me, humor and white lies. Oh yeah, it's cool. I don't care. Yeah, I fucking care. I don't want to do that. Yeah, I know. I don't really mind.
Humor is a big guard for me. I qualify a lot. Like, let's say I'm frustrated with somebody. I'll say, did this, and it really pissed me off. But, they're probably just having a bad day, and I understand. And it's like, you don't have to just sit with your emotion a little, which is a little bit what we talked about last time. Just let yourself be angry about it. Don't instantly start throwing water on the fire, Let it sink a little bit. That's something I definitely struggle with. And that I think I understand. I'm the same as you. I have, there are definitely layers, and there are parts of this sometimes I think are even hidden to me. And I'm not sure if that's something that you share too. But
absolutely.
It's difficult. I don't know, I don't know how far my access keys go. You know what I mean?
So, and then, everything, I joke about this a lot when I'm discussing my thoughts about how to move forward strategically, or even in personal relationships. There's most of the strategies we employ in conversational gambits and in relationships, they're just that. They're a gambit. They're a bet that something else is going to happen, that the person is going to react in a certain way. I think the gambit here, the bet here, is when you tell the hardest truth first, most often the person you're really talking to is not your barista.
Yep.
It's not Jack and Jill from game night. It's not your wife or your partner. It's the person in the mirror. And That person's unforgiving. You know what the worst person? You know what the worst part about that guy is? He already fucking knows, and he's still making me
I
say
know,
it.
dude. I
He's
know.
still making me say it.
The weird something
What's
that
the deal
this
with that?
something that this lets you do as well, and we're closing here in a couple of minutes, is that it lets you, the version you build up of a reaction to the hardest truth. And now I'm taking it away from like, because before we were talking about I have a truth about you, then I'm like, hey, stop buying those discounted chips. Now I'm like, hey, there's something about me that I haven't really shared with a lot of people. If we think about those kinds of truths, you build up that reaction in your head so much bigger than it is in reality. And I know it sounds dismissive, but the idea that people think about you a lot less than you think they do is very true. And it's not hurtful. It's comforting. It's powerful, right? This idea that like your version of the view you have of yourself is, generally speaking, so much more critical than anybody else's. You assume the worst about yourself a lot of the time more than a lot of other people do.
Absolutely. I mean, those are intrusive thoughts, and they come and they come and they come. And you know, when you're in a bad mind space, you actually assume people have worse feelings about you, and maybe are doing things for their own reasons that don't involve you. They're less altruistic and stuff like that. I will say this: I think when it comes to telling the hardest truth, first, fundamentally, the difficult truths in life are about ourselves. So it's not about what other people are doing. And if you want to do this, and I heartily, I encourage, I implore everybody to explore this, because it has changed my life. It has truly changed my life. The problem is there's always a next hardest truth, by the way. So don't think it's a one and done. There's always something at the front of the queue, but they become more and more softball as you're more and more open. But it's always about you. It is.
Did you find it made your relationships first question, did you find it made your relationships easier to navigate? And B, did you find that it damaged any of them?
I think it made them easier to navigate. I do not believe it damaged any of them. I will say this is part and parcel with what you just said. You will find, I think, if you have the right people around you, which I hope you do, but you will find, one, you will find if you have the right people around you.
Right. It's a good, it's a good dowsing rod, right? Yeah.
Two, when you are truly honest about what you're feeling, what you're going through, what you're experiencing, those that love you, no matter what, no matter whether they agree or disagree, they will support you. They will. If they're invested in you, and if they're invested in Mashi, if they're invested in Denis, that investment doesn't change. In fact, they start to double down, because they start to see parts of you or something in you. They're like, oh my God, I haven't seen that, or I haven't seen that in years. And I think it's important. And you think about that. If someone comes to you that you know is shielded, and they start to become genuine with you, and you care about them, doesn't matter, doesn't matter where they're going, what they're doing. You're going to find a way to support them. I mean, at the margins, there's crazy things like genocide and racism that we're probably going to reject no matter what. But let's set that aside for a second. So I think that telling the hardest truth first really does come down to getting on board with what's going on inside your own mind, figuring out, because when we tell white lies, when we put these shields up, they are to guard ourselves, to hide our vulnerabilities, to find a way to channel the discussion, the relationship, the situation away from the danger zones we have that we are aware of inside ourselves. Telling the hardest truth is starting to navigate those, rather than say, hey, let's just completely avoid this. Let's get on the same page with what this is, and then work together strategically to either find a way to embrace that, to undo it, or very consciously, rather than put all the stress on me, very consciously have a dialogue about how we're going to talk through it, and know, okay, yeah, hey, you know what? I know you don't love this. Let's just do something else, baby. Let's just, or hey, dude, I don't like that. I don't like the height stuff. Can we not do bungee jumping on your day to choose an activity? Okay, cool, dude. That's not a problem. Yeah, let's just go to the movies. Oh, great. I think stuff like that starts to fall into place with who you are. When you become more comfortable in your skin and are more honest, others are more comfortable around you, and hopefully, not a guarantee, hopefully more honest with you.
Well, look, I'm going to go into my evening carrying some hard truths, and I might just let them out, and hopefully you do the same with your morning.
Every day, all day, every day,
all day, every day.